Welcome in if you're new to the channel. My name is SweetPhil, and while I'm live streaming, it's not uncommon for me to ask some of the same questions, from day to day or maybe once a week, once a month, whatever. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I thought, hey, since these questions get asked semi-frequently, they'd probably be interesting to go ahead and answer them in the form of video. So today I'm answering some of the questions about my favorite things in Diablo 2. Now, I'll slide in here right off the bat with probably the one that is asked by far the most, and that is SweetPhil. What are your favorite builds in Diablo 2? First off, and these aren't in a particular order, but I'm going to give you three of my favorite here. First off, the Nova Sorceress. It's incredibly powerful. You got survivability on it. Who doesn't love the energy shield Nova Sorceress? Coming in with another one here, we're talking about the Summon Necromancer. Of course, you have those summons to go ahead and, yes, they do kill monsters, but really they're like meat shields. Your mercenary goes ahead, takes out a monster or two, and you start spinning up and just corpse exploding, everything melting the entire screen. For another one that's one of my absolute favorites, right here is the Singer Barbarian. For this one, it's kind of sort of like the Nova Sorceress. You got the area of effect much smaller than Nova, but you still got it. You go ahead and shout down the monsters, and the good thing about Barbarians, you've got that find item skill to find even better stuff. Now, do you see the common denominator between all of these builds? Well, that's right, folks. If you picked up on it, you get a gold star, because that's actually, you barely at all have to aim these builds. Not having to aim means really you can pay less attention to the screen, and kind of for myself, since I'm almost always live streaming when I'm playing this game, I'm trying to read chat while slaying monsters and finding this godly gear. So not really necessarily having to look that close at the screen, I can just kind of see it out of the corner of my eye and then just be melting monsters anyways, is so beneficial. So that is a large reason why, well, these three builds are some of my absolute favorite. Hey Phil, what is your absolute favorite magic find locations? Now, if we're going to talk about favorites, I mean, usually your favorite is going to be the one that you do the absolute most. And that really is one for sure, and that is the pits. Now, what I love about the pits so much is, it's in Act 1, so you don't even necessarily have to go and play through all of Hell difficulty, beat the game, in order to start magic finding in an area. Yeah, the pits, you can find every single unique item in the entire game. So if you're hoping to get that Griffins, if you're hoping to get a D-Web, you can find that stuff in the pits. The pits is also where I found my one and only Zod rune in my entire life. Every single unique in the game, you can find all the runes, obviously. Like I said, I found that Zod there. The monsters are incredibly weak and easy because they're in Act 1. You can farm it right away, right off the bat. That's essentially why I farm it so much and why it's probably my favorite magic find location. But I'm going to throw another one in there, and that's kind of like a meme location, I guess we're going to call it, and that is actually running Thresh Shocket. On offline single player, you can actually run Thresh Shocket in actually like 4 seconds, and this is not even a joke. Literally, I timed it out, made a video about it back in the day. It takes 4 seconds to do a Thresh Shocket run if you have a perfect map on offline single player. And if you're online, it's super easy to read the map on how to get there. You go up left or up right. It's really that easy. He can't drop quite everything in the game. There's actually a bunch of different items that he can't drop that Pindle can, but there are also many great items that he can. One such item being something like the D-Web he can drop. So sometimes I like doing things just because they're different, and Thresh Shocket is one of those. Now, what are my absolute favorite items to use? And myself being a magic finder, these are going to be probably incredibly obvious. Now, I have a Shaco on almost every single character. The life, the mana, damage reduction, and the magic find, the skills. Y'all know why the Shaco is so amazing. So I use that on almost all my characters because, like I said, I'm always magic finding. The next one up that I have pretty much on almost every character, and it's not going to surprise you either because it's incredibly powerful, and that is the Enigma. Even if it didn't have teleport on it, I would probably still use this on every single character, because if you don't have teleport, you need to move faster anyways. So that 45% faster run walk, absolutely amazing. Obviously, it's got 2 to skills. It has a bunch of magic find on it, which, once again, like I said before for the Shaco, I am a magic finder. So getting 1 to magic find per level, absolutely spectacular. And as for the obvious ones, Torch and Annie, well, duh, everyone's going to have one of those on a character. Geed's Grand Charm, obviously you're going to have that on every single character. But another thing that I always use it, maybe people might substitute out and use something else, but that's 7% magic find small charms. Once again, this is a great spot just underneath all your skillers and underneath your Geeds and things like that. There's that one open spot to plug in a little bit of magic find, and it kind of stacks up quite a bit because really, you got 7 magic find small charms. I'm going to do the math for you, and it's pretty tough, fellas, but I'm a genius. 3 of them, that's 21 magic find, right? Yeah. 21. So you stick a bunch of those in your inventory, it can stack up real quick. So those are my favorite items to use, but what's my actual favorite drop of all time? Now, there could be a few different ways you go about this. It could be the rarest item you've ever found. It could be something you've almost never found, like maybe my Zod rune. I just found one. Maybe that could be my favorite find of all time. But if I really had to be honest, it would have to be going back to original Diablo 2. And that's when I found my very first Griffins of all time. Now, Griffin's Eye is so crucially important for opening up Lightning Fury Javazans, any of the lightning builds for the Sorceress, just any lightning build in the entire game for that matter. This was the first time I was actually like specifically hunting. Hey, there's an incredibly rare item. I want to find it. And bang, eventually I did. So this was probably the most hyped, the most excited, and the most happy I have been to find one particular item. So that's why I got to throw it in as my favorite drop probably of all time. Next up, Phil, what are your favorite changes from Diablo 2 to Diablo 2 Resurrected? Now, really, it's kind of even hard to remember at this point how things used to be because I've been blasting D2R like every single day for years now at this point. But some of my favorite changes are a couple of the new builds, and that's really, they brought back the Energy Shield Nova Sorceress, and kind of another one that I wasn't sure that I would really like, but I ended up really loving playing this build, and that is the Fist of the Heavens Paladin. So those couple of builds are some of my favorite changes. The Nova Sorceress used to be great back in the day, way back in the day. Well, they brought that sucker back with a vengeance. It's actually absolutely amazing. I would put it in the top 5 of most powerful, best like farming builds in all of Diablo 2 Resurrected. And also here, one Fist of the Heavens Paladin, this thing was nothing before. It had never really been anything. Perhaps in PvP, I understand Fist of the Heavens had its place, but now actually for PvM, since almost every monster in the game is either undead or demons, not all, but probably 80, 85, 90%, I don't know the real number, you can really go out and farm a ton of amazing locations. And really, like I said, there were a ton of changes from Diablo 2 to Diablo 2 Resurrected. So many different bugs removed, so many different like little things here and there, so many skill tweaks and stuff like that. It's hard to remember them all, so feel free to put down in the comments what you think your favorite change is. Next up, not exactly a favorite, but it kind of has to do with some things that are my favorites, and that is, what are you going to do after you complete your Holy Grail, Phil? Now, if you all didn't know, I actually only have one item remaining. It's a very common item that people often have left, and that is Tyrael's Might. This thing is so incredibly rare. It's the rarest unique in the entire game, so it kind of makes sense. I'm not one of the lucky ones who have found it already. But after I complete the Holy Grail, I actually have a lot of different ideas. There's just a lot of things in the game that I would really like to try. One thing is kind of learning more, really honestly, into like the speedrunning type aspect, just getting more and more knowledge, especially a lot on the map reading. Obviously, I know like the turn left in the tower, but I mean the more intricate parts, maybe how to navigate all of Act 3 so you don't get stuck out there with all the souls in the Great Marsh or something along those lines. That is just one idea of something I really want to do, and maybe even before I finish the Holy Grail, I will start delving into that kind of stuff. But I do really just want to kind of broaden the horizons in Diablo 2 Resurrected here. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if you got any other similar type questions, put them down in the comments. Perhaps your question will make the next video. Don't forget the like button and subscribe up if you're new to the channel before you go. Peace out, and I'll catch you in the next video.